The world's most dangerous clock is currently ticking at 85 seconds to midnight. That is the closest humanity has ever been to a global catastrophe since we started keeping track in 1947. While you're worrying about your fantasy football league or what's for dinner, the people who study nuclear risk and global stability are sweating through their shirts. By the end of this video, you are going to know the exact financial number you need to survive when the world stops working, and more importantly, why the safe path you're on right now is actually a high-speed chase toward a brick wall. Let's talk about my friend Marcus. Marcus is a great guy. He makes $72,000 a year, which feels like a decent middle-class life. He's got $6,200 tucked away in a savings account, and his banking app gives him a little green checkmark that says he's on track. But here's the cold, hard truth. Marcus is standing on a trapdoor. He has over $8,000 in credit card debt and a car payment that eats nearly $600 every single month. In the world of 2026, where rent hikes eat raises before the ink on the paycheck is even dry, Marcus isn't doing okay. He's just not in trouble yet. Think of his $6,000 like a doctor telling you your heart is fine, 5 minutes before a marathon you haven't trained for. It feels okay in the waiting room, but the second the stress hits, the system collapses. And folks, the stress is coming. We are living through the highest number of simultaneous global conflicts since 1945. The taboo against even talking about tactical nuclear weapons didn't just fade away last year, it completely vanished. When governments start breaking records for military spending, they aren't doing it for a parade. They're doing it because the world is getting heavy. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people think survival means buying a bunker in the woods and stocking up on canned beans. I'm here to tell you that the most important survival tool isn't a gas mask, it's liquidity. But not just any liquidity. There is a specific threshold, $100,000, that changes you from a victim of history into a participant in it. Before we dive into that math, we have to look at what actually happens to money when things go south. History isn't just a bunch of dates, it's a warning label. Take Germany after World War I. A schoolteacher named Anna Eisenmanger kept a diary during the hyperinflation of the 1920s. She watched her life savings, decades of hard work, become worth less than the paper they were printed on. Imagine walking into a cafe and ordering a coffee for 5,000 marks. By the time you finish your cup and go to pay, the price has jumped to 7,000. People were literally burning stacks of cash in their stoves because the paper provided more heat than the money could buy in wood. That sounds like ancient history, right? Well, let's jump forward. In 1933, right here in the United States, the government issued Executive Order 602. They made it illegal for citizens to own gold. You had 28 days to hand it over for $20 an ounce, or face 10 years in prison. Once the government had all the gold, they immediately revalued it to $35 an ounce. They effectively skimmed nearly 70% of the value right out of the people's pockets overnight. But wait, it gets even more wild as we move closer to today. In 2001, Argentina implemented the Corralito. They froze every single bank account in the country overnight. Then, while everyone's money was locked behind a digital wall, they forcefully converted dollar savings into pesos at a terrible rate. People lost 65% of their purchasing power while they were sleeping. Fast forward to Cyprus in 2013. The respectable European banks didn't just tax people, they seized nearly half of all deposits over a certain amount. Banks stayed closed for 12 days. Imagine needing to buy groceries or medicine and finding out your bank account is just a suggestion. The government decided to ignore. Here is the mini cliffhanger you need to sit with. Every single person in those countries thought their system was stable the day before it broke. The window to move your money doesn't stay open for months. It stays open for days, sometimes hours. So, why is $100,000 the magic number? Why not 50,000 or $1 million? Because 100,000 is the minimum amount that allows you to handle the 4 horsemen of a financial crisis all at once: living expenses, relocation, inflation hedging, and rebuilding capital. If you have less than that, you're forced to choose which one to skip. And in a crisis, the one you skip is usually the one that sinks you. Let's break down the escape math. The average American household spends about $6,500 a month. In a crisis, you can trim that to $3,000. If you need to leave, and I mean really leave, you need relocation money. A year in a neutral, safe country like Georgia or Panama costs between $22,000 and $38,000, including flights, visas, and setup. If you start with $100,000, you can survive an entire year of global chaos and still have $60,000 to $80,000 left over. And that remaining money? That is the most important part of this entire video. Every major crisis in history creates the single greatest wealth transfer opportunity for the generation that lives through it. When the world is panicking, assets go on sale. After the 2008 crash, housing prices dropped over 30%. The stock market plummeted. Companies like Blackstone didn't get rich because they were geniuses. They got rich because they had cash when everyone else was desperate. They bought 80,000 homes at fire sale prices. If you only have $50,000, you might survive the crisis, but you'll end up broke on the other side. You'll be a survivor, but you won't be a winner. 100,000 is the line where you stop just getting by and start building a legacy while everyone else is scrambling for scraps. Now, if you're finding this perspective valuable and you want to make sure your financial safety net isn't actually a spiderweb, hit subscribe. Most people watching this aren't subscribed yet, and I don't want you to miss the next step in this journey. So, how do you actually hold that 100,000? If you keep it all in a domestic bank account, you're basically leaving your front door unlocked in a bad neighborhood. You need a crisis allocation. First, physical gold. During the German hyperinflation, gold went from 170 marks an ounce to 87 trillion marks. At the peak of the madness, you could buy a whole block of commercial real estate in downtown Berlin for just 25 ounces of gold. That is the power of a tangible asset. Second, physical foreign currency. In places like Lebanon or Syria, when the local banks failed, the US dollar became the only thing that actually worked. But here's the kicker. The people who had digital dollars in the bank got wiped out. The people who had physical greenbacks under the mattress kept their full value. Location matters more than the currency itself. Third, there's Bitcoin. Now, I know it's controversial, but look at Ukraine in 2022. Refugees cross borders with their entire life savings stored on a tiny USB drive or even just memorized in a seed phrase. No border guard can seize a memory. The downside? You need internet, and you need nerves of steel. Watching your net worth drop 40% while the news is screaming about war is the ultimate test of discipline. Here's the framework for your 100,000, 20,000 in liquid cash for immediate runway, 20,000 for relocation, 25,000 in physical gold and foreign cash, and the final 35,000 in low-cost index funds, ready to be deployed the moment the market bottom hits. But let's look back at Marcus. How does he get from 6,000 to 100,000? He has to stop playing the normal game. Step 1 is the most boring but the most vital. Kill the credit card debt. That 24% interest rate is a guaranteed leak in his boat. Paying that off is a better investment return than anything the stock market can offer. Step 2 is the car trap. Marcus is paying nearly $600 a month for a car that is losing value every time he turns the key. If he took that same money and invested it at an 8% return, in 10 years, he'd have over $106,000. Marcus isn't just paying for a car, he's paying a $100,000 convenience tax to drive something that will eventually be worth nothing. If Marcus gets aggressive, if he invests $1,500 a month, he hits that $100,000 survival threshold in just 5 years. That sounds like a long time, but remember, the window to prepare is always open until the very second it slams shut. History shows us that war and crisis don't necessarily create inequality, they just reveal it. The people who couldn't leave Syria weren't unlucky, they just had no financial margin to make a different choice. They were forced to endure whatever the world decided to do to them. Having $100,000 doesn't make you invincible. It doesn't mean you won't be scared, but it gives you the one thing that every person in the historical examples I mentioned would have traded everything for: options. The option to move, the option to buy, the option to wait. The signals are all around us. The clock is ticking. You can stay like Marcus, feeling okay until the day the ATM stops giving out cash, or you can start building your lifeboat today. Build it before you need it, because when the storm hits, the price of wood goes up, and the time to build is over. Drop a comment telling me what your step 1 is going to be. Are you killing debt or starting your gold stack? And subscribe if you haven't. I post new videos every week to help you navigate this crazy world. Stay safe and keep building.